Hey everyone, NoZoupForYou here, and you need to get good. That's basically what Wargaming is telling the destroyer population. Or at least that's what they're telling inexperienced destroyer players in regards to their interaction with aircraft carriers. The direct quote from Wargaming is thus: "On the whole, we think that interaction between CVs and DDs is okay. First of all, CV's rework decreased the gap between skilled and unskilled CV players." Disagree with that right there. Inexperienced DD players die quickly in battles even without CVs because they cannot get used to that class's gameplay features. So in the nearest future, we are not planning any major changes in direction. That I do have an issue with. So there you have it. If you're a new and inexperienced DD player, according to Wargaming, you're going to die quickly either way, so there's no point messing with CVs. Sorry, but this is the biggest cop-out load of crap, kick the can down the road, blind eye answer I've seen from Wargaming in a while, and that's saying a lot. And this set me on a mission, a dirty one at that. I jumped in CVs for the first time in ages, with the sole purpose of making DD lives miserable. I first jumped into a low-tier round, and matchmaking did not disappoint. 3 CVs per side. Yeah, 3. Couldn't have planned that better. Talk about pure poison. And each side only had 2 destroyers. So off I went, not caring about the other ships in the game, just focusing on destroyers with my weaker than weak Hermes, and despite my Nat Bite rockets, I made poor Clemson's life horrible. He decided to push. That was his mistake. He was the first ship sunk. He sank and took with him a total of 80 points of XP for the round. The Izzy fared a little better. That player knew better than to rush up to the front and survive mostly by staying in the rear, using smoke and staying near the other ships. That player played smart, and probably was a little more experienced. I actually had to search for him, but I still chased him down eventually. The next round I jumped from low to mid-tier, and opted to play the Ryuju with the same goal: make DD lives miserable. This time I was the only CV on my team, with 3 DDs to locate and harass. I made short work of a T-22, and the Nicholas was sunk not long after. I kept them spotted and effectively neutered them. 2 of the enemy destroyers were part of the first 3 enemy ships sunk. The 3rd destroyer didn't last much longer, but I had no effect on it, as that player decided to stay in the rear, and I could not locate it. I then went on to torp the rest of the enemy ships and finished out the round, and that was my 2 CV rounds from the other night. 2 rounds, several destroyers harassed, and run into the ground. They couldn't do anything because they were either dodging me or continually spotted by me and shot at by my team. And this is what a CV is supposed to do, and is all too effective at it. To say interaction between CVs and DDs is fine is turning a blind eye to one of the biggest problems in the game right now. And it's the inexperienced players that are being hurt by it. Low to mid-tier matches is where destroyer players are supposed to learn how to play. It's where everyone's supposed to learn how to play. But when a new destroyer player is too busy dodging rockets, bombs, and torps, and not learning the fundamentals, they're going to remain an inexperienced destroyer player. And that's if they keep playing destroyers, period. I don't know why anyone would want to at this point. Anyone that's starting out, at least. 3 CVs per team in Tier 4? No thank you. And that's an unaddressed issue on its own. Even having 2 is a stretch, but 3? That's just lazy matchmaking right there. Wargaming says inexperienced destroyer players die quickly in battles even without CVs because they cannot get used to that class's gameplay features. Right. They can't get used to that class's gameplay features. Destroyers are hard. They aren't as easy as battleships. But when you say this, and say you aren't fixing the carrier interaction, you're ensuring that these players will never get used to the class's gameplay features. How the hell is a new player, or new to destroyer player, going to get used to the features when I'm hovering around them with rockets, keeping them spotted? They can't even get torps off. At least without carriers, DDs can fail and almost accomplish something. They might suicide into cap and get a torp spread off, and they might even get a cap, or a random torp hit. They might even sink a ship. But with a CV hovering over them, they can't even do that. Wargaming is basically signaling they don't care about new players anymore. If you're new, you're going to suck anyways, so deal with it. Better yet, if you're new, play another class because you'll never figure out destroyers. Of course, this wouldn't be so bad if not for the fact there are plenty of experienced, veteran, and Unicum Destroyer players that are aggravated by the CVDD interaction. So what does Wargaming say to those players? Well, you're good, so you should figure it out. I can't figure it out. There's no workaround. Well, get gooder, comrade. CVs aren't changing. End of story. And this is the mindset. And these are the things that are going to slowly kill off the game 5 years on. You can add all the new ships you want. You can add submarines. You can do whatever you want. But when you tell your new players, your inexperienced players, that they're SOL, that's when you lose those players. And yes, you may have enough veteran players to keep things afloat, but they'll only stay so long. And when they repeatedly see statements like the ones given recently, slowly they too will take their money elsewhere. Once again, I'm talking about messaging. I feel like I'm a broken record, and I keep expecting Wargaming to change or learn. But I guess that's the definition of insanity. Doing things over and over again and expecting change. To you new players and players wanting to try to play Destroyers, accept my humble apologies and take some of my advice. Don't bother. Don't buy a premium DD either. Wargaming doesn't care about you, or at least they don't see an issue right now. And that's almost even worse. Anyhow, I want to know what your thoughts are on Destroyer and CV interaction. Do you think there's an issue right now? Or, maybe you're one of those players that's found out some kind of magic bullet that can escape them, and you have no issues with them whatsoever. I mean, when I play Destroyers and their CVs in the round, I can mitigate the fact that they're there. But honestly, in high-tier rounds, if a CV really wants to sink a Destroyer, or at least make their lives miserable, and just completely ignore every single other ship in the game, it's too easy. They're going to do it. And really, as a Destroyer, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you might be able to survive the entire round. I mean, there's been plenty of rounds with CVs in them, and then I've been in a Destroyer, and I've been constantly attacked by said CV, but I haven't done anything. I really didn't contribute in those rounds, because the entire time I was in survival mode. I was either smoking myself, or running back to my friendlies, like a Des Moines or something that had really strong AA, and it effectively neutered me. And I'm sure every single one of you Unicum Destroyer players out there have had a round like that, where you're playing against a very good CV player, and there's just nothing you can do. And yeah, while there might be a fix between the gap with experienced and inexperienced CVs, an inexperienced CV on your team isn't going to do you much good if you're in a Destroyer, because they're not going to do the things that they need to do to help you, like dropping those fighter consumables to give you a little bit of cover, or flying around you, or spotting for you, or just keeping the enemy away. And I know there's fixes coming with the fighters, supposedly, but I don't know how much that's going to help Destroyers. I don't think it's going to help them much at all when we're dealing with CV versus DD interaction, which Wargaming says is perfectly fine. I don't know why they wouldn't want at least, well, I do know why they probably don't want to. And there's money involved with every single change, because they've already said that those cool icebergs and everything else that we're supposed to be able to destroy aren't coming anymore because of the money factor involved. This is probably a financial move. And I really think that Wargaming doesn't want to spend any more time fine-tuning aircraft carriers. I think they're as good as they're going to get at this point. And any interaction with the ships right now is how it's going to remain. Unless something glaring happens or someone finds some kind of bug or exploit, honestly, right now, I think this is the way things are going to stay. So, yep, boo-hoo, too bad. Anyhow, enough about CVs. Some of you have been asking how you can support me and if I had a Patreon, so I finally created one. So the link's going to be in the description of this video as well. It's going to be on my Twitter page as well. So this is something new to me, so I'm still in the process of fine-tuning it and everything else. And I've got a lot of things I'm trying to fine-tune before these twins get here, so I appreciate everything you do, and I'm sorry that I got to throw something negative out here like this, but you know what? It really grinds my gears when, there's an issue, and Wargaming just completely says there's not an issue despite everybody hammering away saying there is an issue. It's not good for the game, and it's not good for the image of the company either. So I really hope they take a second look at this, but I don't think they are. Anyhow, hope you all are doing wonderful. Take it easy. Zoop out.